Hey everybody, it's Zach. Welcome back to the Heroverse. And guys, I just got done with Superman and Lois Season 3, Episode 7, titled Forever and Always. And guys, we have so much to talk about. I cannot believe, I can't wait to talk about the big thing I bet you guys know, if you guys have been here before and you guys have been watching my Superman and Lois, Season 3 spoiler reviews. I have a theory that actually was right, and that happened at the end of this episode, and I'm super excited. Right when I remember, because as the episode was going, I was like, oh my god, my theory's right, oh my god, I said to my sister Annie, I'm like, oh my god, my theory is right, I can't believe it, I called this. Mind you, I knew in the previous episode, which I think was last week's or the week before that, when we found that Pia was the spiral face, the person with the spiral face mask. I called it before they revealed it that she was the one that was working with Bruno that had the spiral face mask. I called it, and I even at the end of the episode, she said she was getting sick, or it was wearing off, her powers that she got are wearing off, the thing that kept her not sick anymore. It was wearing off. So, and then of course, Bruno said, I'll do everything I can. That I'll do everything I can to save you. And I couldn't tell if they were together or not, or he just wanted to just play God and save people. But we found out in this episode, because this episode was literally about Bruno and about Pia. It was their backstory in this episode. So that's pretty much what the basis of the episode is. It's about Pia and it's about Bruno's connection, of how they met each other, them falling in love, and essentially he is playing God and testing out, and giving these, villains powers, or these criminals powers, is because he is trying to cure, Pia's cancer. And that's why he's playing God. And I all came clear when I found out that, when we found out in this episode that it's their backstory, and I was like, okay, he is playing God because he is trying to save the woman he loves. And I was like, this is so unique, because on the other side of this episode, we have, Clark. We start off this episode where Clark is literally in the bathroom with Lois, and Lois is on the bathroom floor throwing up in the toilet. We opened this episode, and I kept thinking to myself, I cannot believe a show that is Superman and Lois, we have this storyline that is so grounded, and just a storyline that we were never prepared for, of Lois having cancer, and we're seeing what it's like with somebody that has cancer, and we're seeing it in a story with Superman, and you know what I mean, and when we think to ourselves, when we think about Superman and Lois, we think about comics, you know what I mean, we think about this is a comic book character, it's just a TV show, but no, they ground this show. This show is so good because they ground it in such a human level, and I mean, I feel like it's so human to have this storyline where Lois having cancer, and it just that we opened up the episode like that, and she's throwing up, and she's saying, oh, I stained another one of your shirts again. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. And it's so real. This show is so real. And that's what I really love, is that they did this storyline and just dropped it on us. And we have to, and they remind us, there's real world situations even in a comic book world. And even in Superman's life that, we're really going to make him realize that, he's married to, he's married to a human. He has a human family. You know what I mean? We're really going to drop this storyline in there. And this is something that, they've had struggles before in the family's come across struggles before, but this is such a real struggle that, no one was prepared for, and so real and so human that I really, we opened at this episode, I kept thinking to myself, wow, I can't believe we're here. You know what I mean? Who would have thought we would have gotten a storyline like this? You know what I mean? And it was just sad seeing Lois kind of it was the medicine was her system was rejecting the medicine. And, they're keeping secrets from Jordan and Jonathan. And that's what the other side of this episode is that Jonathan knows that Clark and Lois are keeping stuff from them. He knows it. And he even goes with Jordan and demands Jordan to take him to the fortress to help figure out if actually Clark told the truth of that the fortress can't do anything for Lois. And we actually end up finding out that, from Clark's mom from the fortress saying that, Clark never brought her here, and he even knows the risks of that's why he didn't bring her, is because she could die via using Kryptonian technology. She could die, And Jonathan is just so angry at the fact of like, no, like why didn't he bring her here? He lied to us. Because even Clark knows, and even Lois knows that that's too dangerous, and they're not willing to go to that God. Like they're not willing to go to like playing God. And if you take her to the fortress, that's playing God. If you're going to use that technology, and it's like they won't go to that level as Henry Miller or Henry that Bruno Mannheim is willing to do for Pia about experimenting on criminals to save the woman he loves. Clark is not willing to do that, and Lois is on the same page as that we can't use the Kryptonian technology because we don't know what it's going to do to me. And even if it was going to cure me, we like there's a too great a risk where it's like, he's like, he ends up saying at the end of the episode, like, I can't give this, even if it would work, that wouldn't be fair to just give it to Lois and not give it to the world, and the world is too dangerous to have Kryptonian technology. It would be too dangerous to put that out in the world. And it kind of makes you wonder, like, damn, like he and they're both on the same page. Is like we cannot stoop to playing God. We can't do that. And even you could tell it's even hard for Clark because he had his moral, like the way he, like his like kind of how much he loved Lois was kind of like tempted in a way, that the fact of Jonathan saying that you're not willing to do what needs to be done to save mom or whatever like that. And it's like, he wants to do it, but he knows he can't do that. And it really goes to the struggle of how much I love this character is because, he has these struggles. He feels helpless. We found out from the last episode, and that's why I love about the character so much, is because he has all these powers, but he can't save everybody physically, but also like, like a people's like medically, he can't save people. So, you know what I mean? For a person that's, has all these powers and all these gifts, it's like, it's really hard for him to have to sit back and not want to play God, not want to stoop to Bruno Mannheim's level to go ask the Fortress for technology that could save Lois, because even they realize that it's too great of a risk to put that technology out there. And the fact of Jonathan kind of, telling Clark, like, oh, like, you should have done it, who cares? I mean, she's dying anyways, like, why can't we use this technology? Because he's not thinking from the point of view of how dangerous it would be to do that, to put it out there, and that you can't just give it to Lois because it's not fair to give it to the world, and it's too dangerous to do that, so that's why they're not even gonna, like, think about, they're not even gonna, like, even think of the idea of using Kryptonian technology, because it wouldn't be fair to just give it to Lois and not give it to the world, or even take that chance. So it's just, I'm really loving the struggles of, like, Superman, a god, whether he not considering himself a god, won't go to that god level territory to use Kryptonian technology. And you see the difference from a human standpoint of, Bruno Mannheim willing to literally hurt people and experiment on people to save the woman he loves. You see the different dynamic of that. You know what I mean? And it's just it's very interesting to see that different dynamic of, like, Superman himself having all this power and having the power of possibly saving Lois, but not willing to stoop to that level because it could make dangerous. It could hurt people maybe in the actions of giving them maybe this, if it does work with Lois, giving it to the world, it could initially hurt people because it'd probably be turned into something. Or, and then, what Bruno Mannheim is willing to do, it literally hurt people to save Pia. So I really love the dynamic between the two of the morals. I'm loving that, because you kind of like, oh, you're kind of like, damn, he's really willing to do that. And you're kind of like, damn, like, I can see that, like, it must really hurt that Jonathan's kind of questioning or kind of putting, how much he loves, like, Lois, like, kind of like throwing that at him, saying oh, you're not willing to do everything to save mom or whatever. It's like he's thought about it, but he can't do it. You know what I mean? That's one thing him and Lois agree on, is that they won't go to that level. So it's just, I love that dynamic of this episode, and just him going to the fortress and kind of Jonathan steering Jordan along. It's like even Jordan was kind of against going to the fortress, saying, oh, like, let's trust mom and dad, but just Jonathan, he is such in a, like, and seeing the different dynamic of, like, Jordan is worried, and and Clark is worried, but it's the fact of that, Jonathan also called out, like, the fact of, like, you're not human like us, you know what I mean? You and Jordan aren't human like us to have these feelings and these worries. And I mean, well, Jordan's just willing to just trust in everything. Jonathan is having that problem of, like, no, we're humans, you're not, but we are, like, that's why I'm willing to go this far, to do everything I'm willing that I can, do everything that I can to try to save mom, or, like, you know what I mean? That's why I'm, like, you know what I mean? It's just very interesting to see that dynamic of when he's like, when even Clark is like, your brother's just as human, just as human as you is same as that you're just as much as Kryptonian as me and your brother. It's just I really love that. How it's like, like just because I'm Kryptonian doesn't mean I don't love your mother as much as, like, it doesn't mean I don't love your mother as much as you do. You know what I mean? Just because, you're human doesn't mean you love Lois more than I do. You know what I mean? I love that. Well, he's like willing to put that. We all care, but we're just not willing to go to that level where we could put everybody else at risk. It's the different morals of how, like, of what you're willing to do to save the one you love, and and what morals do you have. And I love how there's a different balance between Clark and between Bruno. But also going into this episode, it was really also cool seeing Clark really, like, using his Clark Kent reporting skills in this episode. And this is the one thing that beats every kind of, like, that beats Henry Cavill's Superman, and beats, like, a whole bunch, pretty much, yeah, like, just mainly Henry Cavill Superman, is the fact that we're actually getting, Clark using his reporting skills, and him, saying to Lois, you relax, I can take over, because, because Lois is kind of questioning the fact of, like, oh, like, maybe I feel like I'm not even, trusting my gut anymore. I feel like, I'm questioning, kind of like my gut of, like, about, whether I could be right about something. And then Clark's like, you don't question, your gut ever again, because, everything you've had gut feelings about so far have been right. So don't question it. You relax while I can actually, be Clark Kent and go, go kind of interview Bruno Mannheim and find out some answers, because even Lois is putting two and two together, like, okay, like, Pia has to be connected to Bruno. I must know enough about Bruno, because Pia went to this restaurant, same as how, Bruno went to the restaurant. I don't believe that they didn't cross paths before. So she's even, interrogating Pia, and she's, like, totally against it. And she's like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, why are you interrogating me? And she, like, goes across the room and sits on the other side of the room and kind of makes Lois feel bad, when Lois was right about having that gut feeling, because Pia is keeping something from us, because us as viewers were seeing that story of how Pia and Bruno met, and us also seeing the reveal of in last week's episode. So we know they have a connection, and we know now in this episode that they're actually, they love each other. I essentially think that they're actually, like, I don't know if they're married, but they love each other. But so, like, we know that, but, and Lois feels bad about the way the kind of, like, that the way that she was kind of interrogating Pia, and Pia called her out on it. But I love that when, Clark was hitting, was actually taking over the reporting side of things while, Lois was healing. I really appreciated the fact that he was able to ask the right questions to get Bruno to admit that that actually he is using, like, that the fact that the fact that he isn't kind of making any revenue through the cancer side of Hobbs Bay Medical Center. Why he isn't making any money back is because he has someone that he loves that has cancer. And that's when they were all, like, Clark was able to kind of, like, bring two and two together, like what Lois's lead was about Pia and Bruno having connection, to the fact of, like, why Bruno cared so much about Hobbs Bay cancer, like, Hobbs Bay's cancer, research, part of Hobbs Bay Medical Center, why he cared so much, and why he wasn't, like, caring about making any money on it, is because he had someone that had cancer, and he's putting two and two together. Lois's theory and, her lead to his, to him, really getting at Bruno to figure out, like, why, like, like, kind of, going on top of what Lois's lead was, and finding out that actually him and Pia are actually, they love each other, and he's doing all this because for her. He's playing God because for her, to save her. And he even admits to that. And already, Lois is kind of, like, at shock, like, now this explains why you had such problems with me asking these questions. And she's kind of seeing to herself, like, well, like, maybe is he all bad at this moment? Like, I see why, like, he's essentially doing what he's doing. I don't think it's right, but, like, I see why now he's doing the thing, why, like, you can kind of see, like, oh, like, I see why you're doing what you're doing, even though I don't agree with it, but, like, I see why, because even you love somebody, someone that, like, you're willing to hurt people, but you still love somebody, and it kind of, like, humanizes Bruno a little bit, I feel like, in Lois's eyes, like, wow, like, you actually do care about somebody, like, why didn't you say in past articles, why were you hiding the connection that you had to Pia, and why you opened up the Hobbs Bay Medical Center, and why you're not making any revenue when you kind of make revenue in all your like business, in all your businesses. Like, why would you hide this? And he's like, because I didn't want, what people think about me to like, and I didn't want people to think about me like, and then take it and I didn't want people to look at Pia and think that she's just like me, and all the rumors and all that stuff about me. I didn't want that on her. So you kind of like, she finds that, you could tell like Lois was kind of like, damn, like, he actually has a heart, you know what I mean? He actually like, in a way can't be all bad, you know what I mean? Like, you could totally see that in that moment. And I was just so glad that, Clark was able to use, like, he, like, was able to put away Superman and say, like, no, I need to be a reporter on this side. You know what I mean? I need to, like, I need to get at him from a reporter's standpoint and use my Clark Kent charm and you know what I mean? And use my reporting skills and try to get the answers and kind of show Lois that she was right. Do you know what I mean? That, never not trust your gut. And Pia was keeping secrets from you. You know what I mean? And she was just playing it all off or whatever. But, like, I was just so glad that they were able to get that out and that came out in this episode. That now that Clark and now that Lois know that Pia actually is together with Bruno. So I thought that was really, like, cool about this episode, about Clark, using his reporting skills in this episode. I thought it was like a big highlight of this episode. I really, really did. On top of everything else, between in this episode, Natalie brings Mateo to Smallville, or Mateo comes to Smallville to meet Natalie's father, of course, John Henry, and that was very interesting because even John is against like is wanting to scare away Mateo, doesn't wants to protect Nat, like doesn't trust Mateo at all. And just thought, that it wouldn't become a thing. And also, mind you, he wanted Natalie, he's having that struggle because he wanted Nat to, like, be a teenager. And this is what being a teenager looks like. And he's kind of, like, in a way regretting that. And he can't help himself to, like, want to protect Nat because it's something new to him. But also at the same time, mind you, in a couple of episodes ago, he was kind of, like, Bruno was threatening him, and you can't help him to think, like, oh my god, like, I need to keep my guard up, especially I need to make sure that, I can protect Nat, especially at this time now that Bruno knows I'm Steel. So, like, I feel like that also goes along with it. Also, the fact that it is new that Nat is kind of being a teenager and is, and is being in her first relationship and having her first boyfriend. It's like John is trying to kind of adapt to that, you know what I mean, with the new. And same with Natalie, she's kind of, it's new to her having her first boyfriend and kind of being a teenager, you know what I mean, for like the first time. So it's kind of like it's a struggle on both of them, but like she's now getting used to that, and John now has to get used to that as well. So seeing the fact of him making the lunch and Mateo coming over, even though I like I've been saying, guys, is that I felt like Mateo has been sus, and I've been calling it ever since. Like, even Sam had a problem saying he came to Smallville and stuff like that. Like, and how did he meet Nat? And even Sam had some issues and some trust issues with Mateo. And I'm at that point, I was like, oh my god, my theory might be right. I'm not gonna let this go, because even when Mateo came on board, I was like, okay, like I'm happy that Nat found a dude, but I feel like it's a little weird how he came up. And it really made me think, oh my god, when Sam was worried about it, I was like, oh, and it was worried about like, oh, like this dude comes out of nowhere when Bruno, finds out that John Henry is Steel, like what, like, and this isn't a coincidence. And I'm like, even then, my theory was like even getting stronger. Like, oh my god, I think Mateo actually might be Bruno Mannheim's son, and it's kind of like Bruno wanted Mateo to keep tabs on her or something like that. That's, at least that's the part that I thought. But the fact of it is that the whole thing, that's what my theory was. So I just, it was interesting seeing that, he was being rude, John, at the lunch, when they were having lunch, and pretty much getting on him saying, like, Mateo, tell me, like, does your mother have a problem with you driving from, like, Metropolis to here? And pretty much, was grilling him. And even Nat wasn't okay with it. And even when, when he tried to, in a way, kind of, like, apologize for it, or not apologize for it, but kind of, like, really say it, like, because he could tell that Nat was getting upset about it. He was trying to say, like, Nat bug or whatever, and she's like, don't call me that. And then she's like, oh, like, thanks for ruining lunch, Dad. Like, oh, Mateo, let's go to the movie. I was even like, damn, John, like, you didn't have to grill him like that, but I can understand where he was coming from, how that being new to him, I can understand where he was coming from. But it also opened up the door for, like, Lana, and how I've been saying I want Lana, we could see, like, I could see Lana and see John Henry being together. Like, we've been seeing that since the beginning of the season, them possibly getting together. So this even opens up the door more, where it's like, I feel like that we're starting to see a brewing relationship starting between Lana and John Henry, and Lana giving John Henry, like, advice about kind of like how it must feel for Natalie, like, this is her first love, you know what I mean, this is young love, and you need to, like, not try to scare him away. You need to be the cool dad, you know what I mean. You need to let her have this experience of her first love, because that's important to her, and you need to be cool about this. And you know what I mean, even though you're not used to this, and you're used to just protecting her, and you're not used to about her being a normal teenager, this is what you wanted, and this is what it looks like. You need to, like, sit back and be that cool dad. I really did love that. Like, I feel like Lana and John are perfect for each other. I feel like that's more of a perfect couple than her and Kyle. And same with Kyle and Chrissy. And you know what I mean? While that's going on, we have, Sarah having a problem. I guess, so I'm really annoyed that Lana told, Sophie and told Sarah that Kyle is dating, Chrissy. That was really upsetting, because when Chrissy came in to the diner while, Soph and Sarah and Lana were in there, Sarah instantly made the face about it. And then when Lana, like, when Chrissy came in to get, her and Kyle, like, either, I think it was lunch or breakfast, whatever, but pick up an order for, like, both of them. And even Chrissy wanted to say sorry to Lana and be like, look, I just wanted you to know that I wanted Kyle to tell you, and, this is actually really serious, and nothing happened when you guys were, like, dating or in the midst of you guys getting your divorce. Like, nothing happened. It just happened. And you know what I mean? I just wanted to, like, say sorry about it. You know what I mean? I don't want things to be awkward between us. And she's like, I understand, like, Chrissy, I don't blame you, blah, 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 blah. And then, it really annoyed me when Sarah had that rude remark saying that, oh, like, it looks like you already, she said some shit, like, oh, it looks like you already, got your breakfast in, or she said some shit like that, or already looks like, she made some just rude, crude remark. And even, like, Lana thought that was uncalled for putting that towards Chrissy. And then she's like, oh, I think that's disgusting that dad's dating somebody 10 years younger than him. Which I guess, in that, like, I guess I found out, because I asked my sister to look it up. I guess Kyle's like 40 something, and Chrissy's like 33. I think Kyle's like 45 or something, and then Chrissy's 33, if I'm correct. So, I mean, they're both grown ups, and Sarah was just being rude at the end of the day. I was like, Sarah, even Lana thinks you're being rude. Like, you're being rude. You didn't have to throw that shade at Chrissy. She did nothing wrong. Your father's moving on. And even whether you want to see it or not, Lana's moving on. Even if Lana doesn't want to see it or not, Lana's moving on, kind of, getting chummy with, with John. You know what I mean? So I was kind of like, chill out with that. They're grown-ups. They're moving on. Get over it. And so, it was one of those things where I was kind of like, I was happy that, Chrissy and, Sarah, because Kyle, I guess, got held up at work. And even when Chrissy came into Kyle's apartment, Sarah was in there, and Sarah's like, you have a key already? And she's like, no, Kyle just lent me the key. And, he's waiting, he wanted me to meet him here after he was done with work so we could go to the movie. And she's like, oh, you're going to the movie too? And she's like, yeah, like, oh, sorry, Dad, that's not happening. And then she ended up, like, she was getting ready to leave. And then that's when Chrissy got a text saying that Kyle got stuck up at work. You know what I mean? You're being rude, and gave, Sarah the tickets and said, take whoever you want. When in reality, Chrissy asked Kyle if she could go, I think, or Chrissy came up with the idea of them all going to the movies together and wanted it to be a surprise for, like, Chrissy going to kind of smooth things over, or either Chrissy asked Kyle, oh, can I go too, to try to smooth things over with, with Sarah. Either way, Sarah, like, Chrissy went out of her way to try to patch things up with Sarah, and kind of, trying to, like, be friends with Sarah, essentially, and try to, like, tell Sarah, like, okay, like, I'm a nice person, me and your father are both grown-ups, and you know what I mean, and your father really likes me, and I really like your father, can you just, like, I want to get to know you, I don't want things to be weird even between us, you know what I mean. And just Sarah was being rude, and I was really happy that Sarah realized that she was being rude when she said, okay, like, your father got held up at work, take whoever you want. I tried to make this work. I wanted to, like, spend some bonding time with you so that you could see that I'm a nice person, and you know what I mean, and not think of me as a monster that's now dating your father or whatever. So Chrissy was just super nice for that, and I'm glad that Sarah came around saying, like, you know what I mean, like, I heard this is very, like, I heard that this is a comedy and it's very funny, let's go. And they were bonding at the fact of, Chrissy was sneaking in candy and didn't want to pay the outrageous movie theater prices. And then, of course, Sarah found Chrissy's weed gummies. And she's like, oh my god, and then she's like, oh, you have gummies and gummy bears, and she's like, oh no, like pretend like, oh no, like those aren't gummy bears, or oh, those aren't for you. And she's like, oh my god, those weed gummies, are you a stoner? Is my father dating a stoner? And then that's when she's like, oh, like, these are, I go to Coachella. Yes, I go to Coachella. And sometimes, sometimes, you take these to kind of like, sometimes you do stupid decisions, and yeah, that's it. And she's like, don't tell your father. And she's like, oh, what bands did you see and stuff like that. So they were like bonding, and I loved that. I was like, good, thank you, they're bonding, that's great. They came out of the movies, and of course, while John Henry and Lana were coming back, I guess they were going to pick up Nat, or maybe they were just walking past the movies and ended up seeing, like, she saw that Mateo and Nat were kissing. John was getting ready to just go full dad mode and, like, go, like, not being the cool dad. And then she's like, remember, like, John, remember, you're supposed to be the cool dad. And, of course, he still went up and told Mateo, let me talk to you, and wanted to say sorry to Mateo, saying that Nat likes you. That, you know what I mean? If Nat likes you, you know what I mean? That I'm, like, I could tell that you're a good guy and Nat likes you. And if Nat likes you, I'm okay with it. And pretty much saying, you know what I mean? I'm sorry for the way I was acting before. But even then, Lana saw that Chrissy and Sarah were having fun and kind of feels like people are moving on without her. And in reality, Sarah said at the end of the episode saying that, like, it's not the fact that people are moving on. It's the fact that, you're not taking a minute kind of to just, live. You know what I mean? You've been so distracted and so busy. It's like you feel like people are moving on. Like, if you could do anything, what would you do? And they let off fireworks at the end of the episode, which I thought was, like, really cute, that they were spending bonding time together. And, Lana finally got to have a moment where, like, what do you want to do? Someone finally asked her, like, what do you want to do? Forget about how things aren't working about you being the mayor. What do you want? Everybody's doing what they want, and that's why you feel like people are moving on. But, like, what do you want? And it was really nice for Sarah to ask that and kind of give her, like, and kind of, like, be, like a friend for, like, Lana, you know what I mean? And kind of like make Lana feel better and kind of see, like, and kind of, like, get to the bottom of, like, what's been going on with Lana, and having Lana have, like, a moment of fun, because even Sarah sees that Lana's having trouble with, like, with construction crews coming in to do things that, she wants them to do as mayor, and kind of wants Lana to have fun for a moment, and it kind of wants Lana to not feel like people are moving on and she's standing still. I really thought that was really cool. I thought that was really, like, mature of Sarah, so I really like that they're kind of, like, are getting close again after Lana hit Sarah in a couple of episodes ago. It's like things are finally patching up and things are, like, I feel like things are really, like, healing, you know what I mean? And even though things are changing in the Cushing's life, they're healing and they're kind of adjusting to the new adjustments. They're adjusting to the new way of life. But also, with Jonathan at the end of the episode, with Jonathan and Jordan, and kind of them, Jonathan, well, mainly Jonathan coming out and Jordan coming out, with them finding the will that Lois was getting ready to write. It's like they're like, this is bad, you've been lying to us, you're writing a will. And she's like, this is just a precaution that we needed to think about. And you know what I mean? And Jonathan just took it hard, because in reality it's like he feels like he's dealing with it as a human standpoint. That's why he's questioning Clark's, how much he loves Lois, is because he's not willing to go check in, like, get stuff from the fortress. You know what I mean? He's not, using his, alien, genealogy and using all of his tech to save the woman he loves. And in Jonathan's standpoint, he's like, if I was able to do it, I would do this. When he doesn't see the bigger picture that Lois and Clark see about that technology being put out in the world. And seeing it from the standpoint of that, it's like Clark has thought about it. Just because you didn't think about using this technology, we did, but we can't. And that's when he kind of understands, like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, maybe I can admit that I was wrong. I'm just scared. And Clark is scared too. And I feel like they all kind of got in that same level, saying, like, we're scared and this is real. And Jonathan even said to Clark that I feel like you don't even think that this is real. You know what I mean? Because you're not human. But in reality, it's like, we've been seeing for Clark, it is real. And Clark is even admitting to the fact that, I'm scared. I have all these powers, but I can't use them. I have the power of using the fortress, but me and you both know we can't use it. I feel really bad for Clark. You know what I mean? I feel really bad for the family, and I feel really bad for Jonathan, especially in this episode. Like, he just doesn't want. He's like, Mom, I don't want you to die, and she's like, I don't want to die either. And I just did not expect this storyline in this, and especially for Superman. You know what I mean? I never expected a storyline for this, and that's why I love the show so much, because it really knows how to make it grounded. It really knows how to kind of like, see what family struggles, and this is a family struggle right now, and and seeing their journey and how they're going to beat this struggle, and how they're all going to work together. And mind you, even like Jordan's like said to Lois, like, you said to us, like, no more lying. You know what I mean? That, and I kept saying to my sister, I was like, yeah, they're a family. They're not supposed to lie to one another. And even they both thought that, we lied. We didn't want to lie, but we wanted you guys to not worry. And it's like, in reality, it's like, you guys should have knew better. It's like, you needed to tell them. That would make them worry a little less than you lying to them, when even Lois and you guys both said to not lie, like, no more lying to the whole like to Jordan and Jonathan, but yet you guys are. It's like one of those things where you guys need to work together as a unit and have no more lies. That's the only way that you guys can all be together to try to get through this as a unit, as a family unit. And I just really appreciated that, how kind of like, Jonathan and Jordan or Jonathan and Clark are out on the porch, and Lana is doing fireworks with Sarah, and kind of like, they're like, Jonathan's like, it's beautiful, isn't it? It's like, he's like, it's really beautiful, and then that's when Clark said, yeah, it is, and puts his arm around Jonathan. And that's kind of how that's how that ends. But the biggest thing about this episode, which I said my theory about, Mateo being Bruno Mannheim and Pia's kid, that's true. That was the how we end this episode, where like Pia is kind of like, sitting at the table. And kind of like, I also, like, I was very confused because she rung the I beat cancer bell. And what was very interesting to me is we saw in the last week's episode that she's saying, like, it's wearing off and she's still sick. I was very confused at that. I didn't quite understand, like, what, like, did he cure her? Like, did he not cure her? Like, is he saying, or is he playing it off that, like, is Pia and him, like, playing it off that she did get cured? So they can go, like, I'm very confused on, like, that standpoint. But, like, we could tell that she's kind of still sick or whatever, kind of like that. And, like, of course, the person in the shadow says, oh, Mom, are you okay? And I even told my sister, I was like, oh my God, it's Mateo. I was right. He ends up walking into the frame, and it's Mateo. And I was like, I was right. I'm so good, guys. I'm so good at theories. I was right. I called this. Guys, I want to know, when we kind of got those kind of sprinkles all throughout the episode, when John was asking Mateo about, is your mom okay, or your parents okay, and like, and he was, and Mateo was like, my mother raised me to treat women right, and all like the little sprinkles. Did anybody catch that's been watching my reviews saying, oh my God, like Zach's theory, like I think Zach's theory was right, that Mateo was Bruno Mannheim and Pia's kid? Like, did anybody see, like, that my theory was right? Like, see, like, the lead up to that. Because, and when it happened, were you guys like, oh my God, Zach was right? Because I said to myself, I'm a theory genius. Like, I'm nice with the theories, guys. Like, oh man, a round of applause for me. I'm never gonna, like, let this go. Like, this was a big theory I got right. Like, this is badass. Like, I think, because I remind you, I said it was a long shot theory, but I said I think that Mateo is Bruno Mannheim's kid. And then when we found out that, Pia and Bruno's connection, them being together, I was like, oh my God, that's both of their kid. And then him coming out of the shadows, I was like, oh my God, I'm genius. I'm like, I was like, I got this theory right. So I'm just super happy I got this theory right. And it's going to be very interesting, because he even said to, and mind you, the theory about Bruno making Mateo kind of keep tabs on Natalie, that was wrong. That side was wrong. But it's going to be very interesting, because Mateo ends up going in to Pia and to Bruno saying, like, Mom, Dad, I think she's the one, and I really want, to bring her back here so you guys can meet her. And here I am thinking, oh my God, like, when she finds out, when either Natalie finds out that's Bruno Mannheim is his father. I mean, I don't know if she'll know this stuff, because she's kind of been out of what John Henry's kind of like been dealing with. But like when Natalie like says to like, Natalie says, oh, like I want, like Mateo wants you to meet his parents, And that moment that, like, I feel like that's gonna be a very interesting moment where, like, John and Bruno come face to face, and John's like, "Oh hell no," or whatever like that, and kind of like informing Natalie like Bruno's not a good guy, this isn't good, or vice versa, where like I could see maybe like maybe John picking up Natalie at after having meeting Bruno after meeting Mateo's parents, and then that's when he sees Bruno Mannheim and realizes, oh my god, my daughter is dating Bruno Mannheim's son. I feel like some big thing reveal is going to happen where like John's going to realize, oh my god, my daughter is dating Bruno Mannheim's son. This isn't good. You know what I mean? It's going to be very interesting to see how that goes, especially because Natalie won't care about what Bruno Mannheim did, because Natalie's going to say that's not Mateo. He's not his father. And that's going to be very interesting to see that dynamic, and because, I mean, this is literally a make or break for, like, a father and daughter, because the daughter is not going to see where the father is coming from about about that Mateo even being Bruno Mannheim's son is not good, and there only will be danger in that happening because of the threat that Bruno did to John. Natalie won't see it that way, and Natalie would say, I can defend myself, and also Mateo isn't his father, but still there is a problem there. And also from Mateo's perspective, he might not think his father is all bad, and might think that, that Natalie's father is bad for thinking his father is bad. There's just a lot of like drama that's going to be coming up here pretty damn soon, and I'm very interested to see how that's all going to go. But yeah, guys, like I said, like that's a W for me that I got that theory right. I was geeking out. I kept as the episode kept going, and even when Pia wouldn't show, like I said, when Lois said, "Oh, do you have any pictures of your family?" She said no. Like, oh, like not like I didn't bring my phone today, so I can't show you, or I don't have any photos right now, or blah 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 blah. I was putting two and two together. I was like, oh my god, I really in this episode I really said to myself, my theory is correct. They are really beating around the bush about him not mentioning who his parents are, and her not wanting to show Lois the picture because it would show Bruno and also would show Mateo or whatever and all that. I was just, it kept little kind of like little lead ups to this big reveal. I kept saying to myself, my theory is correct. And right when when I heard his voice in the shadow, I said to my sister, I was like, oh my god, my theory's right. Mateo is Bruno's and Pia's son. I was like, oh my god, like I'm flipping out. And then she's like, no, it's not Mateo. Mateo comes out. I'm like, I was right, Annie. I was right. I'm just that good. But like I said, guys, this episode was good. This episode really showed what people's morals and what they were willing to do to save the one that they love, from Clark's side and from Bruno's side. It's just very interesting to me just seeing that. And you know what I mean? I feel like still like, in a way, some people might agree with what Bruno is doing. In a way, some people might agree that, even there's a chance that whatever's in the fortress could save Lois, but they both know that that would not be fair to give a cure to save Lois's cancer, but not give it to the world. Because yes, it could save people, but also it could hurt people because of it being kryptonite or it being, Kryptonian technology. It can eventually hurt people. You know what I mean? For all we know. So it's like, it just shows that, trust me, like, Clark wants to do this, but him and Lois know that they can't do it. And it's just very upsetting when you think about that. It's like he knows you can't play God. Even though people would call Superman a god, he knows I'm not a god and I can't play God. Like, I can't stoop to that level. I can't do that. I can't play God. But Bruno is willing to do that to save the one he loves. It's just interesting seeing that different moral dynamic of, you know what I mean? Of what would you do to save the one you love? And I'm really curious to know, if you weren't, what would you do? Would you, if you were in Clark's position and you had, and you had the one that you love having cancer, but you have this technology that could save them, but also, you know what I mean? It could save them, but you know what I mean? Would you do it? Or would you be afraid or would you not do it because you'd be you would say it wasn't fair to give it to the one you love and not give it to the world, but giving it to the world could hurt people? Or would you be like Bruno Mannheim? Would you, experiment, do whatever you could to save the one that you love? I'm really curious to know, what moral what morals do you agree with? Like, I'm really curious to know. Like, I feel like that's such an interesting thing that's one of the reasons why the show is so great, is because it makes you question, like, what would you do? Because it's so crazy. It just really builds to, like, the character of who Superman is, that he doesn't play God. You know what I mean? He doesn't play God. And it's just one of the things that just makes me love the character so much, is that he's willing to, like, think of that moral ground of that it wouldn't be fair. No one else would think from that standpoint. Like, it wouldn't be fair if I gave it to the one I love and not give it to the world. And if I gave it to the world, it would be too dangerous to have that technology out there. It could hurt people. It's so Superman to think that way, and it just makes me love the character, because it makes you think, like, oh shit, he makes a valid point. It wouldn't be fair to just give it to somebody and not give it to the world. But if you gave it to the world, it could hurt people. It's so genius when you think about it. And I feel like this show plays the morals of Superman so well, and just the storyline, just, you know, it keeps making me just love this show more and more, because it's something that I feel like we just did not expect. And that's why this show is so good, because it does things that we just would never expect. I just would never expect a storyline with Lois having cancer. I would never expect this storyline, and how it would affect the family, especially how it would affect someone that doesn't get sick, that someone that doesn't have to worry about anything happening to him like that. You know what I mean? And doesn't have to worry about dying. It just flips everything Clark knows on his like upside down. You know what I mean? It flips everything over, because he doesn't think that from that standpoint of, oh, Lois could get sick one day, or oh, Lois is gonna get old one day, or you know what I mean, or Jonathan's gonna get old one day. He doesn't think, but like I feel like everything got flipped over for him, where he's kind of like, I'm thinking about this now. I'm worried about Jordan, because, I feel like I can't save, Lois, and it really hurts me that I have all these powers and I can't save Lois. So now I gotta turn my attention, and that's why I'm trying to ground Jordan and not let him do things on his own, because I want to protect him, and I know I can. That's the one person I know I can protect, and the one person I know I can control. You know what I mean? I love how everything's kind of been flipped on its head this season, and it kind of really just shows the moral essence of being human. And the more in the essence of like family struggle. And kind of like in the family and families coming together to unite to beat this kind of struggle that got put upon them. I'm loving it. I'm loving this season, guys. I loved this episode, and I'm just super excited to watch next week's episode. It's gonna be very interesting. I have the promo set up right here. I'm actually gonna minimize that, and I'll pulled up the wrong thing. Come on, let me minimize that. Pull up the internet, and I have it all preset right here. Put on the headphones, guys. Definitely let me know down in the comments below if this is too loud or not, or if it's perfect. Definitely let me know, because I'm always curious to know like what's the right setting. So definitely let me know. And also, like I said, let me know how you guys liked this episode. And like I said, let me know like what you think about the morals between Clark and what he's not willing to do not willing to do to save the one he loves, and like what Bruno is willing to do to save the one he loves. Like, let me know what your take is on that and how you guys feel about that storyline. I'm very curious to know. But guys, we're gonna watch the promo for episode 8 of Superman and Lois season 3 right now.
Bruno's secrets have to be exposed.
Their secrets might be a lot more dangerous than ours.
They're training a firefighter.
You were a liability today. She's a murderer.
It could be the same person.
Did you feel that? This is how we nail him.
So clearly, at this point, Lois and Clark are clearly at this point willing to they're saying that we need to expose that Bruno Mannheim is not keeping this a secret anymore. Like he literally confirmed by Clark being such a good reporter and Lois being such a good reporter that about the connection to him and Pia and them being together. And her denying it, and to the point where Clark, ended up taking over and confronting Bruno about why he wasn't taking any revenue from the cancer side of the cancer treatment center at Hobbs Bay Medical Center, because he has somebody that he loves that has cancer, and that brought out to the point where he is dating her or married to her, and he cares about her. and he is experimenting, and he didn't deny it. He is experimenting on people to save the woman he loves, and they're now saying to themselves, we need to put this story out there because people will now understand that, you know, he is doing the things that he's doing. There is proof behind it. So now they're wanting to expose him for what he is doing. So that's going to be very interesting, but also, like I said, it's going to be very interesting because even she's getting sick to the point where I think she's not being able to control her, like, her powers. Pia, she's not being able to control her powers because the medicine that she took was, that we thought was healing her, but actually isn't working. Bruno hasn't really found that ingredient to, like, really cure her, where now her powers are kind of, like, going out of whack. It looks like she can't control them. So the fact that Nat said, oh, did you feel that, like, kind of, tremor at the table, I'm thinking, I like the whole of him pulling out the gun and Pia's right there. I don't think he's doing that to Nat, but it's going to be very interesting to see if kind of, like, John finds out in the next episode that, like, Mateo is Bruno Mannheim's son, or Nat's gonna find out that Bruno Mannheim is the person that's bad and has been doing bad things. It's gonna be very interesting to see, like, how either will Nat find out or will John find out. You know what I mean? It's gonna be very interesting to see how that goes. So my favorite thing I'm super looking forward to in next week's episode is the fact that, like, Jonathan seems like he's upset at Jordan I guess because somebody was training new on the job to become a fireman. So, like, a new fireman was training on the job, and Jonathan thinks that Jordan put him at harm's way. So that's going to be very interesting to see that dynamic of kind of, like, Jordan needs to realize that, you need to be aware of your surroundings, and it looks like Jonathan is going to put kind of Jordan in his place about that, saying you put someone at risk today when you came to go save people from the fire. There was a new fireman in training, and you kind of put him at risk. It's going to be very interesting for Jonathan to give Jordan that feedback, and how Jordan will take that feedback, because that's what it seems like it is. Like, he kind of almost put someone at harm's way. So that's going to be very interesting. I still hate that costume, Jordan's new costume that he has right now. I think it's trash. I know it's kind of like they're paying. It's kind of like they're taking stuff from the comics. I think it was from an old issue or a new issue where, like, that was Clark's kind of, like, start-up suit or something like that. I can't quite remember with the whole goggles and stuff like that, but the suit is trash. Like, let's be real. And I'm really hoping we get a new suit probably by the end of the season. And what I'm really hoping for is that we can get, like, him wearing the family crest before before the series ends in general. That's what I'm hoping. Like, please give us that before you're going to end the series. And, like, if you're going to end the series, please tie things up nicely. It still upsets me that I know that's on James Gunn's mind, where he said, like, oh, he possibly sees maybe 2 more seasons of this or 1 more season of this, and then he wants to end it. It still pisses me off. But I'm just loving the fact that we have the show now. I'm just loving each and every week that we get the show. Because I'm just, like I said, I love this show, guys. As you guys know, I reviewed season 1. The whole series of season 1. I never missed an episode of Superman and Lois. When Superman and Lois season 1 came on the CW, I never missed an episode. I did season 1 episode spoiler reviews. When season 2 happened, I never missed an episode. I did season 2 episode spoiler reviews, and that's why I'm here again, because I love the show and I haven't missed an episode, and I'm doing these spoiler reviews for you guys. So it's one of those things where, like, I'm loving this season. I feel like this season is so great, bringing the human side to Superman. I feel like this is so human because they're dealing with such a human problem. You know what I mean? And I'm loving it. I'm loving this season, guys. And I just want to know your thoughts down in the comments below. Like, what'd you think of this episode? What'd you think about that big reveal of Mateo being Bruno and Pia's son? Like, what did you think? I'm really curious to know your reaction on that. And also, guys, yet again here, if you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel, put on those notifications, like this video. We'd love to have you guys here, a part of the family, part of the channel. We're all about spreading love, positivity, and motivation. And guys, literally, we're at 691. We're almost to 700 subscribers. So if you're new here and you love Superman and Lois just as much as I do, subscribe to the channel, put on those notifications, and like this video. It all helps grow this fam here on the channel. And also, guys, over on Patreon, today's reaction up on Patreon, I did my reaction to Return of the Jedi. Mind you, I've already watched. This isn't the first time I've watched all the Star Wars movies, but this is the first time I've done a countdown to May the 4th. And all the Star Wars movies up to Return of the Jedi are up right now on my Patreon. Like I said, it's only $5 a month. And right now, I think I have like 70 something worth of like content up on my Patreon. Like literally, like I said, only $5 a month for all that 70 something content. And literally tomorrow or tonight, I think I'm going to film it late tonight. And I'm going to drop it on Thursday. I'm going to be recording, the next reaction up is going to be Force Awakens, and I'm going to be dropping that on Thursday for May the 4th, but tomorrow I'm actually going to be reacting to Guardians 1 and Guardians 2. Like I said, I've already watched these movies. I'm just kind of doing like a countdown to Thursday's release of Guardians Volume 3, so that's why I'm kind of doing this cool countdown over on my Patreon. Guys, Patreon is a lifesaver. I love Patreon. It's an extension of this channel. It's something where I can give you guys full-length, unedited reaction videos, whether it be movie reactions, whether it be TV show reactions, where I'm not getting my videos taken down here or copyright claimed or blocked or getting my channel taken down for copyrighted content. I just, it's a lifesaver. And like I said, guys, I wanted to make it, I wanted to make it where you guys would be able to subscribe to it. That's why I made it $5 a month. I think that's so worth it. You get all that content for only $5 a month. Guys, I would just love it if you guys could go subscribe over there, because my goal is to get at least 200 people on Patreon before the end of this year. I would love to. And hell, even if we could get to 100, on 100 people on Patreon before the end of this year, that'd be freaking phenomenal. Like I said, guys, we have so many more shows and movies coming up. Even if you aren't even interested in the Star Wars movies, I've done so many things over there already. Whether it be Andor, whether it be Andor season 1, whether it be Mando season 3, whether it be the Star Wars movies, whether it be I have a Werewolf by Night reaction over there. I have so much content over there, which you guys can go check it out if you want to. It's in my description, and it's in my link tree. So if you go and hit my link tree, you can hit the Patreon icon, and it takes you straight to my Patreon, and you guys can go check out what I have over there. But like I said, guys, this isn't even kind of like it's only going to keep getting better. That's what I mean. It's only going to keep getting better with the content I'm going to be putting over there, because like I said, we have so many more shows and movies coming out. I mean, if you're interested in Marvel, we have Secret Invasion on June 21st. I'm going to be doing reactions over there. So they're like, if you guys do not want to miss any like Marvel, and we have Loki season 2 coming out soon. We have so many different. We have The Boys probably coming out this year. We have Invincible season 2 coming out this year. We have so much stuff coming out this year that if you guys want to see my reactions to these things, it's so worth it. It's so worth that $5 a month to, with all that content that I'm dropping over there. And like I said, guys, if I could, I wish I could drop it here. But it's one of those things where like I don't want to take risks with YouTube and have my channel being taken down, or me just putting in all that hard work of trying to edit out a lot of the copyrighted content, and it just gets taken down anyways, when I could just give you full unedited reactions for the price of $5 a month. It's such a good it's such a good steal, essentially. You know what I mean? It's such a good deal. You know what I mean? To have all that. So definitely go check out my Patreon. I would just love if you guys could do that for me. It helps out it helps out me a lot, and it helps out the channel. And just share the people share the people that I do these reactions and stuff like that, like either on my channel and also over on my Patreon. If you know anybody that likes Star Wars, send them my way to Patreon. Show them that I'm doing reactions as a countdown to May the 4th. If you have some people, if you're interested in kind of like when to rewatch the Guardians movie before you watch the third movie, my reactions will be out leading up to Volume 3 this Thursday. Definitely go check it out. It helps me out a lot, and it helps the channel grow even here, and it helps the Patreon grow. So definitely, again, I would love if you guys could go check that out. And like I said, if you're new here, subscribe to the channel, put on notifications, like this video. But guys, that was the review for episode 7 of Superman and Lois season 3. So I hope everybody has a great day, a safe day, and I'll see you guys next week, next Tuesday, for Superman and Lois episode 8 of season 3. Peace.